So this is Annette Evans with On Her Own again. I've got Lee the Obscene Sailor. And we have earlier talked a little bit about that world of early dating, online dating, meeting people, starting to kind of begin what our relationship with them will look like, whatever that is. And this time we want to talk a little bit more about what happens as we navigate that transition from, ooh, we met them and we liked them, to, ooh, maybe we want to keep them in our lives. Because as we shift that relationship, there's a lot of things that change in terms of how we can have a good relationship and how we can keep ourselves safe. There's new things that come up.
I'm going to go ahead and make the obligatory plug for our first episode. We spent a lot of time talking about knowing our boundaries and being able to articulate the ones that we need to articulate, the things that are not expected. Um, the basics of don't show up at my work unannounced, don't show up at my house unannounced. Those are things that are kind of understood. As we're talking about getting serious, suddenly we're navigating way more difficult boundaries. It is financial, it is major commitments of time, potentially major commitments of space, um, and a higher level of obligation. I think to articulate that as we're looking at getting serious with someone.
Right. This is where we start meeting friends and family and introducing friends and family. This is where we start making known to a potential partner or new part of our life. You know, even if we're talking friends with benefits, but they're becoming your best friend with benefits, you know, introducing them to people from your past potentially. You know, we're all at an age now where there's likely to be ex relationships or old time friends that all need to be navigated, or family that need to be navigated, and what that looks like and how to do that. And not to mention things like, where are you going to live? And, you know, I somewhat infamously kept an apartment for a long period of time after I was effectively moved in with my partner, because I wanted that space and I wanted that boundary. Obviously, that's not always an option for people, but these are the kinds of things you need to think about and articulate and consider for safety purposes. And then when you have to go to family gatherings.
And your apartment is, I think, a really, really good example of you articulated it beautifully to a handful of us who knew that it was entirely about being your insulation and your backup in case things went weird, as well as just giving you that fallback. But it was that articulation. You know, as someone who's been your friend now for 4 years, 5 years,
A while.
I yeah, I would have been worried, just as your partner would have been, that why isn't it keeping a apartment when she's moved in and in all other ways seems to be happy. Um, and that's where our articulation of things matters.
Yep.
Um,
And sometimes that articulation could be simple as, you know, there's a reason I'm in therapy.
and as someone who also is articulating, you know, when I have a therapy session, the next like 48 hours, I could be a little touchy. You know, I talking with partners, talking with the people who we care about. You know, I know how often I've rolled out of a session and gone, I'm going to be offline, or the opposite of this is what I need, and making sure that you know our partner is not blindsided by that is really really important. Um,
Yeah.
I,
And that's the kind of thing that happens when they start becoming your partner or your actual boyfriend or girlfriend versus this person I'm seeing. Is you can't just like disappear offline after therapy, and that's just a normal part of the ebb and flow of your communication, because maybe you're living with them. They kind of got to know.
and that articulation, I've been yelled at repeatedly by women that I've dated over the last few years for, oh my God, you were offline for 8 hours. Where were you? I was worried you were okay. Part of my getting serious with someone is, okay, they get to see the stash pile of stuff that I leave in the back of my Jeep. I I have tools for every single emergency, and because I'm lucky enough to be where I'm at in life, I can throw money at a lot of problems. And between the two, if I can't throw enough tools and experience or money at the problem, there's very little chance that it's going to be fixable by someone else. That's probably a lawyer's guns and money, like I need Warren Zevon here right now kind of situation. But they need to have a really good idea of who I am to understand why I approach it that way. You know, I
Well,
um
it, what's interesting is you talk about how, they don't necessarily see that stash until maybe a little later on because it's part of you that's not as open to the casual acquaintance, we'll call it, right? The first couple of dates. Um, so my boyfriend knew, I'm very open about my involvement with the self-defense community, with guns and things like that. And part of that for me is it's unavoidable. My first name is unique enough that, and some of the other stuff I do and things like that, it's unique enough that it's fairly easy to find out. So I like to get ahead of it and just let people know up front, like, this is what I do and this is a thing that I'm into. Um, but as for whether or not I actually carried a gun or other weapons, that did not come up for quite a while
and
until he found out and was kind of amazed by how much that a little girl could carry without an ex-bouncer figuring it out. But
um so being on right now, a shout out to John and Sarah Hopman. Being on
happy
that, and
anniversary.
yeah, hey, happy anniversary, guys. We love you. Uh Being on that Enigma train, you know,
Oh
I
man, it's amazing.
taking my clothes off on the internet, absolutely surprising no one.
You were just waiting for
I
this opportunity.
Oh God, yeah. I hit up my OnlyFans. Link in the description below. No, so this is a fairly standard setup for me, and that is a Smith and Wesson in 32 H&R, a reload, and a centerline fixed blade knife. I can fix a lot of problems with that set of tools, and it is vigorously robust enough in its concealment that I have had some very good dates that had no idea that I was armed, who knew that I was involved in the firearms community, who knew that I shot competitively, who knew that, I, to point in the back here, to know that I spent my childhood hunting in the woods where guns were normal, but they didn't know that I had it on me, as much because I don't want to be typecast as that person before they get to know me. Um, to be honest, there's a reason that even when I was not 100% of the time carrying a small revolver as my everyday carry, the first time that I thought they were going to see it, I had a small revolver because it's immediately
Less.
understandable, it's inoffensive. There is a social aspect. To be honest, the same reason that if I'm going to carry somewhere that does not wish me to carry, but it's legal to do so, it's often a small revolver. For those, most of the time, it's a 22 long rifle J frame, um, because socially, that's not a bad guy gun. Um,
Hmm.
and that's part of this getting serious. Is no, this is who I am, and
Letting them in, I think, is the way to put it.
letting them in without giving them a an expectation that's not correct.
Right.
Um, I getting them to understand the balance of this is who I am, this is what I'm about. For me, that is very much driven by, okay, I'm involved in the firearms community, but it's a diminishing part of my life.
Hmm.
Um, but you're going to meet my friends who are who are considerably bigger into the firearms community. And we're going to talk about, oh my God, new hotness over dinner. One of the cops is going to whip out cell phone footage of a recent arrest or a recent shooting. And this is going to be something that, even if it's not your thing, please navigate it with grace because these are people who matter to me. Um,
Well, I think it's a lot like if you are an EMT or a paramedic, and if you've ever hung out in those communities, you'll know what they talk about over dinner, and it's not what normal people talk about over dinner.
and navigating with grace. We talked
Yes.
about meeting friends and family.
Oh yeah.
We all have that family member that we warn our partner about. Um, and and we all have a role, looking at major holidays, special occasions, those big milestones. That first Christmas that you bring a partner home to your parents, that's a big deal.
Oh,
Um,
on so many levels.
and we have our family members and our friends have expectations for our partners that we may not necessarily I, that our partner may not necessarily know about because they may not be reasonable requests. You know,
Mhm.
I
You might not
in
know you can't talk about politics with Uncle Billy ever. Period. End of story. Just don't do it.
or that, in the case of my ex-wife, her father expected me beside the grill with him anytime we were doing anything for the holidays. Once I figured that out, it was a considerably better experience. We got to talk guns and politics the entire time, and he and I had a better relationship for it.
Right.
Um, I think part of making that person your person is as much as you can, and you may not know all of what they expect. Communicating those expectations,
Hmm.
communicating the things because our partner is going to want to meet and to be what the people in our lives want them to be, even if it's just for a short stint. And being able to help them figure that out a little bit quicker goes a really long way towards making it an enjoyable experience for everyone.
Right. And I think that being clear about some of those expectations makes everybody less uncomfortable. Like, so I took my boyfriend on the tour of some of my close friends, the friends who are family, friends who consider themselves older brothers, protective, very protective older brothers in our community. And I was upfront, like, look, this is what they're here to do, or this is what you're here for. And he took that with good grace because we all knew it. We didn't have to talk about it. As far as I know, nobody actually like threatened his safety or anything. I don't know. But we could turn it into a joke that way. It was
And
funny. It didn't have to be serious business. It didn't have to be scary. It was just like, look, overprotective males in my life. That's just the way it is.
and on the inverse, as someone who is currently dating no one who's monogamous, navigating other partners.
Hmm.
You know, I jokingly told a girl, knowing that I was going to meet her partner in passing, but knowing that I was going to meet her partner, who she had shared a large chunk of her life with, that don't worry, I'm going to bring a ruler, we can measure, and we'll figure out who's big daddy and who's little daddy, and we'll work from there. Um,
Or
being able,
sometimes there's ex-partners who are in the picture. I mentioned that my boyfriend has a daughter. So, obviously his ex is in the picture. And it is better for all of us if that is not an entirely, okay, let's be honest, it's never going to be a comfortable, or it's very, very rare to be a super comfortable, super friendly relationship. I've seen them, they do happen. But even if it's not, or certainly in the beginning, it can be civil, it can be friendly, and it can be respectful. And I think that everybody has a responsibility to do that. Or if it is a bad relationship, your partner has left an abusive ex or something, and whether or not they have to deal with them, maybe there's a custody thing or something else, you need to know about that.
I and as someone who divorced without children, without a lot of that, even just understanding that past relationship. I, January 13th it was our anniversary. Understanding that January 13th, I may be a little more thoughtful and not even morose, but giving that the respect as what had been a huge part of my life. You know, it's that articulating and establishing boundaries and being able to help someone that we care about, someone that we like, be a good partner for us because that's what they want to be. Um, let's talk. Let's talk moving in together.
And I think I wanted to say something about timing, and moving in together is actually a perfect thing for that. When is too early and when is too late to take steps like moving in together or introducing a new partner to an existing partner or an ex-partner, or introducing to friends, or introducing them to parts of your life that are more private. Is, I think we all fear opening up too early. Right? We might chase them off. It might be too much. They might use that information against us if this doesn't work out. Um, and then, of course, I think we've talked a lot about what happens if it's too late. They can't be a good partner to us. And on moving in, there's a lot of, you know, too early, too late. And in a world where many of us are renting, we can't necessarily time it to the perfect point in a relationship, especially if we don't want to pay double rent. Um, so I think some of that is the communication aspect, right? Talking about what the expectation is if you decide to move in. How are the finances going to work? Who's going to
And
be responsible for the lease or the mortgage? How much of it? How about the other household expenses?
I think that this is the first opportunity to really deepen the bond and build I- as both of us are therapy nerds, and I to start building an actual genuine relationship with good communication norms. That is one of my very, very large boundaries, is that after a period of time in a relationship, I expect to have the kind of communication norms that make therapists get a little excited in their pants, and I because of my past experiences. And there is no universal answer. What you and I know is is no universal answer to when do we move in with someone? When do we
Maybe
tell them
never.
that we love them? Yeah, how do we go about that, and how do we establish that and make sure that our partner knows that I, I have two cats. I'm not moving until I know that it's going to be serious, because I owe it to them. They are stable, they are happy. I don't need to upset them without a good reason.
Hmm.
Speak of the devil, one of them knew that I was addressing her. I don't need to upset them or my life without good reason. And if I articulate it that way, it's better for everybody.
Hmm.
Um, and if the answer's never, okay, that may be a good one to address early.
Right.
If the answer is my lease is up this time frame, maybe 6 months in we start talking about it with enough time to really have that as an intentional discussion point in the
Versus my
relationship.
lease is up next month.
Yeah, that not, hey, in 2 weeks I have to renew for another year, or um, because that's not good for anyone, and that puts a lot of undue stress.
And I
Um,
think too, being intentional about where you're going when you move into. Are you moving into one partner space? Are you moving into new space, long term or short term? Like maybe for now, one partner's lease ends 6 months later than the other. We'll cram into their place for 6 months and look for certain things that allow us to have other aspects that will make our relationship work. We have
and
my boyfriend and I have separate studies, doors closed. This is very important to us.
I, and I feel like as we're discussing this, there's certain things that you and I are hitting on because we're at a point in our life where we're re-entering the dating scene. If for the 20-year-olds who are listening to this who maybe haven't had that relationship yet, who haven't had that life experience, you're in for a ride. Have fun.
Learn from us, please. We know you won't, but try.
We know you're incapable. You may try, but these are the things that I think make and break a relationship. Way more than the big gestures, way more than the, that trip to Paris that you guys are planning. Like these are the things that day in and day out let you live with your person. Um,
Look, stuff like who cleans the kitchen and when? How dirty does the place get before it gets cleaned? Do you get a cleaning person? Because let me tell you what that does for domestic bliss. um, little things like that. And here's the thing, for volatile relationships, sometimes you need this to work this out early to keep them from becoming volatile in a way that becomes dangerous. It's one thing if you guys are passionate with each other and, like to have big screaming fights, but they're fun big screaming fights. They're over a movie, they're over what to have for dinner versus the resentful screaming fights because somebody let the kitchen go too long before it got scrubbed and the laundry hasn't gotten done. They're very, very different fights with very, very different implications for your emotional and physical safety. And I'm not saying, well, you need to clean the kitchen so he doesn't beat you. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about creating the simmering resentments that happen when two people live together, even as just roommates.
and on that resentment, having had the opposite experience where we didn't have those fights.
But we didn't.
There was there was never a raised voice. There was never a in 8 years. Despite sometimes that I deserved it,
Hmm.
despite sometimes that she deserved it. That was not our norm.
And that's not
Come to
healthy
find,
either.
yeah, come to find out, not communicating about the problem is not, and that is how we get serious with someone. Is we figure out, cool, Sunday night we debrief on how the week went, the things that are upsetting us, the things that we're happy about. Um,
One thing I really like is we always have dinner together.
I,
Even if we're on our phones or watching something, like I want the meal together in physical presence.
that routine
Hmm.
in this stage of the relationship, in that you're finally like getting a, building a path with this person. Okay, what is your routine?
Yep.
Um, it, in my case, it wasn't dinner. We got ready for bed at the same time.
Hmm.
Like that was our time of connection because of work schedules and everything else. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's all valid. If you want to wake up with your partner at 4 a.m. and go run a 5K every day, you're deranged.
Go
You're
you.
deranged, but have fun with it. It doesn't matter what it is. This is all so personal that all that matters is that it makes the relationship happy and that it's healthy.
And that it's something that you can use to help navigate the tough times.
Um, that leads into our next episode, but I I think that ending with, it doesn't matter how good the relationship is, there are going to be tough times. It doesn't matter how good the friendship is, there are going to be tough times. I pissed off Annette earlier today by not reading a message that she sent yesterday because I had been driving, but I didn't let her know in advance. Um, that is a facet of all relationships, period.
Yep.
Building for it now is how we survive it.
Yep. And building for it now is how we create a relationship where we have productive ways in which to manage conflict because that conflict is going to arise. So if we can build that foundation, A, we might be able to avoid some of it. Yeah, and that's always a great thing. But if we can't avoid it, we have some way to manage it.
Okay, so I would be remiss right now in as I'm looking at our agenda for this episode and realizing that the violence aspect is not particularly played up, nor should it be, but the other part of this for our intended audience is how do we handle, say, firearm storage?
Oh, yeah.
And whoops, we messed up not putting that on the agenda. I very casually have long guns behind me. I showed that I have my carry gun. What isn't seen is the fact that those are all locked up, and I broke them out before this call
Hmm.
because that's important to me. I'm not a 23-year-old with long guns littered throughout the house anymore. As we're looking at moving in together, as we're looking at someone spending a lot of time in our domicile, we need to have the conversation that if they suffer from depression, if they, whatever the case may be, in addition to deciding if that's a deal breaker for you, it needs to factor into, do I get to leave firearms unsecured in my house?
Hmm.
Do I have to put my carry gun back in the safe when I take it off every day?
Yep.
Um, and having that conversation early on, um, my ex-wife had started psychiatric medication during the course of our marriage, and we had a conversation about it, and I went and made sure that everything was in the safe, and only came out when it was time, like when it was going on me, or hey, I'm going to be home for the next 2 days, I'm not going anywhere, okay, then I can have something out because I have positive control over it,
Right.
because she's starting new medication and side effects are real. um, for the gun community, we owe it to the gun community to be good stewards and good representatives. Annette and I, as competitive shooters, as people who put our names out there, especially owe it to have that conversation.
Yep.
I
That's
because
another
we're
reason I kept my residence private, is
yeah,
because I was living the life of the itinerant trainer and trainee, and had stuff out all over the place all the time, safely secured when I wasn't home. But when I was, I might have stuff getting ready for the next trip or unpacking from the last trip, and I was traveling almost every week, every other week. Well, that's not somebody, I don't want somebody around that who I can't be trusted to be safe around them. And that's not a fault in them. It's simply that's my life. It's just as if I were um, the kind of artist who had, I'm a sculptor, I have cutting tools around, or I have acid around, or something like that. Or there's kids who are going to be coming over. Do I need to childproof my place? Sometimes you need to adult proof your place.
and that is not necessarily the end of the world. That is, as you and I both have talked a lot about finding that balance in our lives, it's not the end of the world to need to adult proof your place. It is not the end of the world to raise the barrier to a poor impulse if our person needs it,
Mhm.
but it's a conversation we owe them and ourselves to have.
The other thing too is, this is something for us to do, that we do to protect ourselves as well as our person. I like how you put that. It is, how would you feel if? And sometimes it's a reminder to us of, hey, I needed to be a little bit more careful overall, and now this person has reminded me how lax I had allowed myself to get. And that happens. That's just how it happens, especially for single adults living on their own, doing this kind of stuff, who can know that nobody's ever getting in their apartment, that there are no children in their apartment complex, or they live alone on a piece of land, things like that. So use this as a reset for yourself, to protect yourself and your own possessions and your own gear. Until you've gotten more serious with this person, you don't know what friends they come with, what bad people in their life they come with. You know, I'd hate to lose my gear to a tweaker friend of some guy I met. That happens.
And we talked a lot in the last episode about using the correct amount of force. We don't necessarily, even if they legally have it coming, we don't necessarily want to shoot somebody that we're dating. It gets really hard. You get a reputation after like the third one. Um, even if I'm dating someone and their friends are attempting to B&E because they don't think I'm home, there are implications to that, just like shooting a neighbor's kid, just like shooting someone who, your drunk Uncle Billy. There are implications we may want to avoid. Um, my guns get locked up, and I have a really large canister of OC that sit by my front door because I don't know what the problem is going to entail, and I may not want to go immediately to lethal force, even if I'm in my chonies or other bits exposed.
And then, this is going to be a bit of a pivot, but I also want to talk about there's an area of safety that we really often ignore when we get more serious in a relationship, and that's the financial piece. And this is kind of related because, when we talk about guns, we're talking about this is usually a high value item in our life, right? And part of the reason we don't want them stolen is we don't want them used in crimes. We don't want people to use them against ourselves, themselves, or other people. But also part of it is because those things are worth a lot of money, right? So the other piece of financial security is, you start talking about splitting the bills and all that. Do we have a joint bank account? Do we not? Do you have your own emergency fund to get out if this turns bad?
I have a family member who is going through that right now. That from the outside, you would think that they were the model relationship. And I did. I, I've done a lot of therapy, and I thought they were the model relationship. Having the independence in the use of force to be able to enforce our boundaries, having the financial independence. Can I throw money at a problem to have a deposit and first month's rent in my bank account at all points in time, in cash somewhere that, my partner maybe doesn't know about? Do I have the means to remove myself from a bad situation?
Hmm.
Um, it's useful if we have a partner, and if you have a partner and suddenly need to go because the apartment flooded and it's not going to be habitable. It's just as useful if they decided to relapse and start using drugs again. Um, equitable, like the conversation, I like the communication norms, like everything else. Equitable bill distribution is going to be what the relationship decides is equitable bill distribution.
Right.
What matters is that it's discussed. It cannot be an assumption of, oh, well, I thought you were going to pay for it.
Hmm. Yes. Which brings us full circle. Right. Hi, Kitty. Are we going to use kitties to decide when we're done?
Oh, I gotta show the internet the cat butt.
Right? I feel like, that brings us full circle all the way around back to the beginning, which becoming more serious is it's really a matter of figuring out how to expand that person's role in your life and where all those boundaries and expectations that go with that expansion are while you continue to maintain your own safety, whatever that safety looks like. And then since we've had a cat visit, I feel like that's a good moment to say next time we're going to talk about, that sustainment and then maybe when it is we need to end it. So next time.